Good morning, everyone. Your Sunday weather briefing for this August 5th finds that there are no major changes in the forecast versus what I presented from back on Friday. You can see the lack of changes when you look at my temperature and rainfall outlooks this morning. I do not consider any of those temperature outlooks for the 1 to 5, 6 to 10, and 11 to 15 day periods to be any different than what I presented from back on Friday. For the 6 to 10 and 11 to 15 day rainfall forecast, still a decidedly dry weather pattern for the Corn Belt once we get by the near term rainfall threat, but are still looking at some increased rainfall chances for the 11 to 15 day period. QPF discussion for the 1 to 5 day time frame. I'm not going to have any disagreements with this forecast. Note that a big portion of the rain that is located in the northwestern Corn Belt is going to be occurring during about the next 24 hours. Then the rains further south and southeast in the Corn Belt for tomorrow and Tuesday before the Corn Belt dries out. All of the rainfall for the southern plains and into the mid-south will be getting started by around the middle of this week. For the day 6 to 7 time frame, again, this is a time frame when the Corn Belt will be drying out with any rainfall to the south of there. This particular map would be mainly based off of the GFS model. European model would have a much wetter forecast for especially the mid-south. Looking at 48-hour radar estimated rainfall, I think that versus my own expectations, I would consider rainfall so far during this weekend as at least close to expectations, if not better than expected, as we have seen really a lot better coverage than I would have thought of some 3/4 of an inch to inch and a half rainfall amounts in the northwestern Corn Belt. I certainly thought that we would see that type of rains, but overall, the type of coverage of that type of rain that we have seen in northeastern Nebraska, southeastern South Dakota, northwestern Iowa, and into a good portion of Minnesota and northwestern Wisconsin is better than I would have expected. Looking at early morning radar on this Sunday, you can see that a cluster of thunderstorms is moving across a northern portion of Iowa and into far southern Minnesota. It's a good example, once again, of how the models really struggle with summertime rainfall forecast. Trust me when I tell you that no models had that type of a thunderstorm complex moving across the upper Mississippi Valley here early on this Sunday, and that would include weather maps from even as recently as yesterday afternoon. As far as the forecast is concerned, we do still have a near-term rainfall threat for the Corn Belt that is going to be in the forecast from today through about Tuesday. Looking at surface features as of 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. When we walk in tomorrow morning, we should be seeing a pretty significant area of rain and thunderstorms across the northwestern Corn Belt. By the time we get to 7 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, that area of rainfall should be sliding a little bit further southeastward from where it is going to be during the next 24 hours. And then as we get towards 7 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, that is when our near-term rainfall threat is going to be ending. You can see that by that time, thunderstorms starting to move out of the Corn Belt and into the mid-south by the time we get to Wednesday morning. So looking at the rainfall forecast for the next 3 days from right now through 7 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, again, as usual, you cannot consider any of these forecasts as anywhere close to perfect. Again, as I just pointed out, the models have a very difficult time predicting thunderstorm activity in the summer, and that's even on a 12-hour forecast. In general, though, my favorite areas for rainfall would be northeastern portions of Nebraska, southeastern South Dakota, northern Iowa, far southern Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, some portion of Illinois, as well as southern portions of Missouri. I would think that rainfall in those areas of at least a half to an inch and a quarter with 60 to 70% coverage over the next 3 days. Probably the very biggest rains are going to be in the Iowa-Minnesota border area, mainly during the next 24 hours. Would not be surprising at all to see some portions of that area see some heavy totals of an inch and a half to 2.5 inches or even more than that. Your most limited rains in the near term in southern Nebraska, Kansas, central and northern Missouri, southern Iowa, and into west central Illinois. In that area, probably rainfall amounts mostly under a half inch with coverage only about 30 to 40%. Then as we get beyond this period from about 7 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday through at least the end of the 10-day time frame, that is a period when the rainfall is really going to be diminishing in the Corn Belt. Looking at just 5-day rainfall forecast for the period from Wednesday morning through Monday morning, you can see that all of the models are in agreement of very limited rainfall. A lot of places, nothing at all in the Corn Belt in that period. Any rain that is seen, mainly in just far southern and far eastern areas, there will be much better rains in that period to the south of there. Some nice rains in southern portions of the southern plains across a big portion of the mid-south, where rainfall will be getting increasing in intensity and coverage in those areas by the time we get to Wednesday, and those areas could very well see a rainfall threat right through the end of the 10-day time frame. But obviously with that big of a rainfall threat, those areas are eventually going to see some very nice totals. Why is it going to be dry in the period from later Wednesday through the end of the 10-day time frame? I mean, after all, for a lot of last week, I was talking about this northwesterly flow aloft that would keep rainfall chances in the forecast. Well, the problem is we're not going to be seeing a northwesterly flow aloft in that period. For example, just look at the European ensemble. These are 500 millibar maps as of 7 o'clock in the morning next Sunday, August 12th. You look at the Corn Belt, there's not a northwesterly flow aloft in the Corn Belt. Instead, it's more of a southwesterly flow with the jet stream or storm track well to the north of the Corn Belt at that time. You can see that any trough of low pressure would be located in the far southern plains, and it is areas to the east of any trough of low pressure that would have the best rainfall chances. So you can see why the Mid-South would still be in some rainfall chances by the time we get to 7 o'clock in the morning next Sunday. So again, the models were very much in error about a week ago at this time in predicting a northwesterly flow aloft for the current 6 to 10 day time frame. Instead, it's going to be a southwesterly flow aloft with the storm track well to the north of the Corn Belt. So pretty easy to see why any rains in the 6 to 10 day period are going to be staying well to the south of the Corn Belt, with mostly dry conditions instead in the Corn Belt during that time frame. Temperature-wise, this is an error. This is actually a temperature anomaly map for Wednesday. Actually, we're going to be seeing well above normal temperatures, well, at least above normal temperatures anyway, on this Sunday across a big portion of the Corn Belt. 87 to 97 degree highs are going to be seen. And again, basically, that's a mix-up in my part, showing the same temperature anomaly map twice. The warmest temperature day in the forecast for the Corn Belt in the near term is going to be for today. Starting to see better cooling in northwestern portion of the Corn Belt for tomorrow, and then looking at a situation where we are looking at mostly normal temperatures in the Corn Belt for the middle of this week for Tuesday through Thursday. The temperature anomaly map for Wednesday, you can see a widespread area of mostly normal temperatures in the Corn Belt at that time, even some below normal temperatures at that time in the central plains. By the time we get to Saturday, though, or even Friday, I should say, the warming temperatures are going to be returning at that time. By Friday, you can see that especially central and northern portions of the Corn Belt seeing a return to above normal temperatures at that time, and we will be looking at least normal to mostly above normal temperatures across the Corn Belt from this Friday and right through the end of the 2-week time frame. Looking at 500 millibar forecast for the 11 to 15 day period, you can see why rainfall chances should be increasing at some point during that time frame. Still a lot of warmth in the forecast for the 11 to 15 day period. Lots of above normal heights for both the day 1 period of the 11 to 15 day period and also for the latter portion of that time frame as well. So temperatures would clearly be remaining above normal. However, you can see that the jet stream by that time is no longer flowing across the southern portion of Canada, but is being more directed towards especially the heart of the Corn Belt during that time frame. Should be seeing some disturbances moving over top of a ridge of high pressure in southern portion of the nation that should be returning rainfall chances to some degree in the Corn Belt for the 11 to 15 day time frame. Lots of details though still to be worked out in exactly how significant or how heavy those rains would be in the Corn Belt for the 11 to 15 day time frame. Your international weather for this Sunday, still a decidedly dry weather pattern for summer row crop areas of the former Soviet Union for the next 2 weeks, mostly above normal temperatures as well. Their worst temperatures with respect to normal, the warmest temperatures I should say, will be during the 11 to 15 day period. The forecast is improving for Europe, as you can see that we are looking at near normal rainfall there for the next 2 weeks. It is going to be staying dry and quite hot in Europe for another 4 days. A very limited rainfall, most places nothing at all for today through Wednesday. 90 plus degree temperature is going to be common for today and tomorrow in France. Then an especially hot day going to be seen in there for Tuesday. Just for the 1 to 5 day time frame, look at the type of heat that is going to be seen across Europe. Big time heat, temperatures running easily above normal, and again it will be Tuesday when the worst of that heat will be seen. Look at these high temperatures on Tuesday. 90 to 100 plus degree heat going to be widespread and common that day for France, Germany, and into western Poland. That is going to be the peak of the heat though. Germany and Poland will probably be just as hot for Thursday, or I should say on Wednesday and probably into a portion of Thursday, but France will be cooling off nicely for Wednesday, and the cooling is going to be seen across much of Europe by the time we get to Friday, and temperatures overall for Saturday and beyond for especially Germany and France will be quite mild for the rest of the 2-week time frame. We'll also be seeing rainfall returning to France by the time we get to Wednesday, with rainfall chance continuing through the end of the 10-day time frame, or if not, even into the 11 to 15-day period. So clearly a situation where the worst of the weather in France is going to be from today through Wednesday, easily above normal temperatures and limited rainfall during that time frame. After that, though, the heat breaks and rainfall returns as well. For the spring grain areas of the former Soviet Union, looking at some fairly decent rainfall amounts there during the next 10 days. In China, some very nice rain is going to be seen for the duration of the 2-week time frame for especially southern portion of Manchuria and into northern portions of the North China Plain. Fairly typical temperatures coming up for for Manchuria for the next 2 weeks, while temperatures running mostly above normal for the North China Plain. It is still not a wet forecast and thus not a good end to the growing season across the Canadian prairies. Decidedly below normal rainfall there for the next 10 days before rains do pick up to some degree in the 11 to 15 day time frame. Cool temperatures for today and tomorrow for the Canadian prairies, but lots of heat then for Tuesday through the end of the week before temperatures then cool down again for the rest of the 2-week time frame. Temperature forecast trending a little bit drier again for the Australian wheat areas. Anything close to normal rainfall just confined to extreme southern portion of the country, with a big portion of their winter wheat belt running decidedly below normal on rainfall for the next 2 weeks. Forecast for the Indian monsoon shows that conditions are improving there to some degree, but still the monsoon for the next 2 weeks not nearly as robust as it needs to be, and still look at below normal rainfall for the next 2 weeks for especially Maharashtra and areas to the south of there. That's what I have for your Sunday. Everyone have themselves a great rest of the weekend, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow morning.